discovered how to identify a nation, borders, language, and culture in 1994. The man responsible for most of the language today surrounding immigration. The man responsible for the foundations of the Trump revolution. The most published and least quoted man in the media, I'm proud to say. And a man never called upon by anyone in any political party at any time for any favors, because they know they won't get them from me. So no, I am truly an independent. I carry no order for anyone. And I'm watching what's going on now before the elections. And what I realized is that this is life imitating art, something you may have learned in college. Life imitating art. And what I'm referring to is George Orwell's novel 1984. In the segment called 2 Minutes of Hate, Orwell was so far-seeing, he wrote about a thing called 2 Minutes of Hate, which was a daily period in which party members of the Society of Oceania were forced to watch a film depicting the party's enemies, notably Emmanuel Goldstein and his followers, and express their hatred for them for exactly 2 minutes. It was required. You had to sit and watch the film showing the party's enemies, notably Emmanuel Goldstein and his followers, and you had to express your hatred for them for exactly 2 minutes. If this is not what we're living through today, I was searching for where is this hatred coming from. And then I realized that Jeff Zucker and Phil Griffin of MSNBC, they're actually acting out the 2 minutes of hate. And their little marionettes encourage the foolish people who watch their channels to hate Trump and hate Trump's voters in their 2 minutes of hate. It's amazing, isn't it? So anyway, just a thought here. It's life imitating art here. Now, the illegal invasion is another question for me. I'm starting to get a sneaking feeling that, now I'm not saying they did it, because they're not smart enough or as organized enough to do it. But if you were a Republican strategist, and you know that there was a communist wave arising in America owing to a number of different reasons, and you had to stir up your base to vote, could you have done it in any better way than bringing in a marathon march of 10 to 20,000 illegal aliens, mainly young, strapping men with new clothing, threatening your country? I didn't say they did it. Please don't misinterpret it. But it's actually working only for the Republicans. It's not working for the Democrats. I'm just thinking out loud. If you were a political strategist, could you think of anything better to stir up the Eddies and Ediths out there than a march of 20,000 illegal aliens marching in from Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, wherever they're coming from, through Mexico, threatening to invade your nation? I couldn't think of a better method of doing it. This is a form of mass hysteria, which I have written about, and it's inducing mass hysteria, and I think rightly so, by the way, because the country cannot absorb another 10 to 20,000 illegal aliens in one swoop, number one, and number two, they're basically illiterate in their own language. These are not professionals marching here to become dentists or doctors or architects or journalists. They're marching here simply for the welfare benefits and such, and everybody knows that. And we have so many poor people on the bottom, and it's only going to affect them. So, again, going back to the bigger picture of the 2 minutes of hate, I have no question for you on the issue, but I did look into the marathon march coming into the country. They call it a migrant caravan. I call it a marathon march. And I looked into who's behind it, who's funding them. It's very hard to find the names of the individuals who are funding them and are now suing the U.S. government. Did you hear about that one? I'm sure you did. The communists behind this invasion of America were just, I guess, put together by a bunch of lawyers. We don't know who their names are, but if I found their names and they're Americans, what I would do is I would charge them under the Espionage Act. And I would have them deported when they're found guilty. I don't care who they are. I don't care what university they teach at. I don't care what cloak they hide behind during the day. But a dozen illegal aliens traveling by foot from Honduras, well, it's not by foot. It's by motor car, by bus, by truck. They're coming in. They're organized. Filed a class action lawsuit yesterday against President Trump, the Department of Homeland Security, and others, claiming a violation of their due process under the Fifth Amendment. Now, the fact of the matter is they're not entitled to the Fifth Amendment because they're not citizens of this country. You all know the Fifth Amendment states that no person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. It has no application whatsoever. Fifth Amendment does not apply to illegal aliens. But 12 Honduran nationals, including 6 children, are listed as plaintiffs in the lawsuit. It was filed Thursday in the U.S. District Court of Washington, D.C. said it is widely known that Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador are undergoing a well-documented human rights crisis. The Central American migrant caravan now numbers, they say, 4,000. It's around 15 to 20. It's like the liars are telling us there are 11 million illegal aliens here. Since I began in radio, the number has been 11 million illegal aliens. I told you it was 33 million 5 years ago. My guesstimate now, it's hard to say how many illegals are here. How many are here? 50 to 60 million? Maybe more. So the suit is going to sue. We're going to sue us, basically. We're all being sued by the illegal aliens. And so we looked into the organization behind it, Nexus Derechos Humanos. Nexus Derechos Humanos. Human Rights Attorneys, Inc. One race, one community. That's almost like Hitler's Ein Volk. You know that one? You know Hitler's statement? This is really weird. These leftists are starting to ape the National Socialists under Hitler. Hitler's statement was, one nation, one people, one leader. Did you know that? Ein Volk? So now they're saying the same thing. This left-wing group is very much aping the National Socialist motto of the Third Reich. One race, one community? Well, that's the community of Nexus Derechos Humanos. And to understand this slogan, you have to understand what these lawyers are trying to do, and that is take over America through the courts. Now, what can we do about it? I guess support anyone who opposes illegal aliens. It's that simple. Now, who's behind Nexus Derechos Humanos? Who are the names? Well, I'm the only one in the media who actually did the hard work. I have to thank Clint and Jim. Who actually did this? You, Jim, Karen, Doug? Who did it? Come on, level with us. Who did the hard work? Clint Granberry gets the 4-star award. It's Granberry, not to be confused with Cranberry. Clint did this, and the names of the lawyers behind this anti-American group are Mario Williams, Lily Blanton, Jennifer Jones, Dallas LaPierre, and Andrew Tate. And they are all American born and bred lawyers, so-called civil rights lawyers. Graduated with honors from Morehouse College in poli-sci. That's like a degree in poli-sci, I suppose. You can't go lower than that. Then he got a law degree at Lewis and Clark in Portland, Oregon. That's Mr. Williams. Then the associate lawyer is Lily Blanton, graduated from the American University, Washington College of Law with her J.D., and from Appalachian State University, magna cum laude. Appalachian State University, magna cum laude in what, dental work? What's Appalachian State University? When you say Appalachia to me, it's poor people who can't get tooth implants. They're too expensive. If they even can afford anything in Appalachia, what they get are the things that your mother and grandfather used to have that you put in a jar next to you at night. You know how much implants cost today? You have any idea what an implant costs? I'm having one done on my lower tooth. It's going on for a year and a half. It's like $20,000. They can't afford that in Appalachia, let alone Honduras. Next lawyer is Jennifer Jones, civil rights attorney. Worked on federal and municipal levels. Dallas LaPierre, civil rights attorney. Graduated George Washington University Law School. Look what they're turning out of these law schools. Look how they turn out and churn out these leftist anti-Americans. Andrew Tate, medical malpractice in correctional settings, workplace discrimination, racial discrimination, sex-based discrimination, and judicial overreach. What a busy fellow Andrew Tate must be. So that's that story. And if you want to have your 2 minutes of hate, you can call me at 855-400-7282, 855-400-SAVAGE. Orwell saw it all. Did you miss the opening already? Do I have to repeat? Yeah, now it's time to repeat. I've been in the air 3 minutes. I go back now. The 2 minutes of hate from George Orwell's novel 1984 was written to be a period, a time period in which party members of the Society of Oceania were forced to watch a film depicting the party's enemies and express their hatred for them for exactly 2 minutes. So if you watch CNN, you get 2 minutes of hatred because they always make you hate people. Not so much Fox. They're more middle of the road in many ways, and they don't really specialize in that kind of 2 minutes of hate. And it's interesting, though, that Orwell picked the head of the enemy party to be a guy named Emmanuel Goldstein. I think that's really odd, given the amount of anti-Semitism that's flaring up in America right now. You know, that's another question that I almost don't want to touch on today, because I don't think I'm gonna get where I want to go with it. But why is there so much anti-Semitism all of a sudden in America? Why are Jews being picked on? That's the real question here. I mean, the knee-jerk answer is that because all of the left-wingers, seem to be of the Jewish faith. Well, that's a knee-jerk response, but that's because you don't know about the Jewish conservatives. And you also don't know that most left-wing Jewish people are not religious. Most of them don't believe in God. They have almost no religious affiliation. They're Jewish only by birth, not by any practice. That's been my experience. So, I can answer the question in my own way. I don't need people to call in. I don't want to get, pulled into the swamp of hatred here. Could you play Syncopated Clock for me right now? It's time for me to take a breather. Not a break. Don't you dare give me a break. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Picture the young 11-year-old Savage in Queens, New York. After a hard day toiling in school, I would come home. I'd sit in front of a television set and watch the news, the 5 o'clock news, and they would always play the Syncopated Clock. Then I'd have a nice light dinner that my mother made for me before my father came home. Probably steak, meatloaf, something with meat, creamy potatoes, and then followed up with an ice cream dessert. Now, if I were to feed this diet to, let us say, an animal population to see if I could induce atherosclerosis, the animal would have been dead within 7 months. But owing to the fact that I've inherited some lucky set of genes, here I am making hell on earth for liberals with a brain.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2640. Did you know today is Dia de los Muertos, another wonderful cultural experience for all the liberals in America who like to get down with ethnics. Whatever the ethnic holiday is, they get into the mood. Any American holiday like Christmas, no. No American holidays. George Washington's birthday, Lincoln's birthday. No. Christmas, no. But anything ethnic, they just get into the mood. Dia de los Muertos. You'll see some dopey liberals celebrating it today. Actually, Halloween is like Dia de los Muertos. Central and South regions by people of Mexican heritage. And they create altars to remember the dead. All right, that's nice. That's nice. We remember the dead. In America, we light candles to our dead, don't we? But don't they go a step further and actually sleep in graveyards if they're poor? Like to commune with the body down there? What do they actually do in the Day of the Dead? It's not a Mexican version of Halloween. It's somewhat related. It's a very rich and colorful tradition. Skulls, things like that. And I think if you were a true American and you weren't a bigot and you wanted to fit in with the crowd in the universities, you would be up on what the Day of the Dead is. It's really, they would say, a celebration of life. Children dance with skulls. They eat skull sugar molds. Very good for a child to expose a child to that kind of thing. Here it would be considered child abuse. I mean, if you had a child dance with caricatures of death or eat skull sugar molds, Child Protective Services would take the child away from you. But if it's a cultural thing, whoa, hands off. So today, I think, is that day already. We're here now. Dia de los Muertos. I wonder if the caravan of marchers is going to stop to celebrate their holiday somewhere along the way. Perhaps the ACLU can drop them care packages of stuff to go with it. I don't know what you do. I have no idea what you do with it. I'm a cultural anthropologist by training, so to me, all religions and all cultures are very interesting. as such. If you look at it, traditions of people, fascinating. And, whatever, like they say, whatever floats your boat. You want to lay in a graveyard? Good for you. I mean, if it feels good, do it. You want to get down with the tomb? Go ahead, man. You want to get down with the tomb? You want to hug the earth and communicate with the ground? Go ahead. Go for it. You want to have skulls in your window? Why not? Lighten up the country. Lighten up this stiff white America. Dance with the skulls. Anyway, did you see the thing about Prince Charles jumping from one thing to the other? You know what I'm talking about, that doofus guy in England, the inheritance case, who never worked a day in his life. The guy is so helpless. It's said that he has valets who iron his shoelaces every morning. I said, no, this is too much. Iron his shoelaces every morning? Like things have to be lined up a certain way. I mean, that's ADD. I mean, OCD, whatever that is. I mean, I'm a neatness guy up to a point. But if you get that crazy, if you don't have a royal inheritance, you can't carry it off. My father always hated the royal family. See, he was from Russia. He hated royalists.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now.
I hate the migrants and make believe I'm not. I know how it works. I know radio like the back of my hand, and I know the back of my hand well. But if you don't mind, after a quarter of a century of articulating the problems with open borders and the effect it has on our borders, language, and culture, if you don't mind, I don't think I want to talk about it. So I try to go in another direction. I see there's they jumped away already. They can't take it. And that's the way radio is. After 3 hours of a person who precedes me across America, who sucks whatever remnant of IQ is left in the talk radio listener, and I'm not so sure it's high to begin with, except for a percentile maybe of the 1%. The largest percentage of people who listen to talk radio religiously, if they listen to this guy for 3 straight hours, or whatever remnants of intelligence is in their brain at the beginning, there's nothing left at the end of those 3 hours other than they can only utter acronyms like MAGA or lock her up. They can't even finish a sentence. All they're capable of is going MAGA or lock her up. There's no capacity for discussion. So I don't know how this format survives with the constant appealing to the lowest common denominator. It gets lower and lower and lower by the day. Can't somebody offer a thought? Is there no one out there with a brain? Has the talk radio audience been limited only to, hero worshipers? What is this now? What is this becoming? Where's the conversation? Where's the dialogue? Where are the ideas, for God's sakes? So look, I could just do a show with no callers at all and just do my own show, and that's the end of it. I could read from my own books, sort of like a lobbying on my own part. No, what do they do in Congress when they don't want to take any votes? They stay up all night and talk. Whatever they have. Who? A pinochle? They play pinochle at night? Filibuster, right. Filibuster. They filibuster by talking all night. I could just do a show by reading from my books. I could just start with my first political book and read to the last political book, to the last sentence of the last political book. I'd have the same audience, if not larger. And if I'm going to ask you to call and you're calling with the same stuff every day, I can't take your call. Look what I've given you. Look at the richness that I have given you in the opening of this show compared to the normal putrid fare out there. And you don't want to talk about it. I can't help you. I don't know what to do. So I'm going to continue to do what I do and just, rap as I do. But I'm going to ask a leading question. Here's a question. If the Republicans lose seats in the House, as they will, but it's a bloodbath. Let's say it's a bloodbath of loss. Not 5, not 10, but they lose like 80 seats. Let's say a real crasheroo. Who do you blame? Now I throw the number out, 855-407-282. But I do. I mean, if the Republicans lose like 80 seats, who are you going to blame? Who will you blame? Who will you blame? 855-407-282. WABC, Eric, line 8 from New York City. What's on your mind, Eric?
Yes, sir. Listen, real quick. I know you have a Challenger. I have one, too. I bought it when I got out of service in 1973. And I see God every time I'm cruising on that car alone.
You see God driving in a Dodge Challenger? That's funny. What, you mean listening to the exhaust? Listening to the exhaust is like to you like an organ in the Sistine Chapel.
That's right. And I go to shows and cruises. I used to race the car. No more. Me and Betsy. We just cruise together. Anyway.
Who's Betsy? That's your dog or your wife?
That's the car.
Oh, it's a step further yet. You gave the car a name. I've done that.
Yeah. And
I named my blue S600 Mercedes. If you remember, I wrote a novel in which the character has a blue Mercedes, an S600, an old car of mine. I bought it in '08. V12 monster car, hand-built engine by Mercedes. I named it Wilhelm. I gave him a name.
German name, too, for a German car.
Well, Wilhelm's a good name. Isn't that the original name of Mayor de Blasio? Was Wilhelm?
Well, he's another story. Anyway, listen, the other thing was, I went to Barnes & Noble's one day for a reading thing with my grandson and my wife, and when it was over, I'm in the aisle, and I picked up your book. I think it was the one, The Liberalism and Mental Disorder. This guy came over to me, looked at me, and said, you could look at that book, you're going to get poisoned. Your mind is going to be poisoned. And he knocked it out of my hand and walked away.
Well, he was obviously a very tolerant liberal. Where was it? Did he teach at Columbia or NYU?
Excuse me?
Where did he teach? Columbia University or NYU? The guy who knocked the book out of your hand.
I don't know. He walked away when he did.
You know what? Let God seek vengeance. He will. In the end, God gets everyone. In the end, God gets everyone. I'm sending you stop mass hysteria because you're such a nice guy and because you got a book knocked out of your hand. And so now we're going to the next. I got callers on why anti-Semitism is increasing. I'm asking you who you blame if the Republicans take a bloodbath in the House, right? There's a lot of blame there's going to be. Wait till you see Wednesday. I'm not even looking forward to it. I can't believe what's going to come on Wednesday, right? Can you imagine what talk radio is going to be on Wednesday? Can you imagine what's going to happen on Wednesday? What's going to go on in this country? KSFO, Kenny, line 7. You're up on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind, Kenny?
Yeah, I think it's about time you snap out of it. The difference between this election and the last one was the president was calling you, and you were all excited. I blame the president. He hasn't.
I should snap out. Wait a minute, Kenny, hold on. Let's back up a bit. Snap out of what?
It seems, but the feeling you have is of depression or like mania when the president was calling you last.
Well, you think I'm depressed? You hear depression today? You're really an amazingly crazy person. I don't hear depression.
No, but your past week or.
Also, you must be a psychiatrist by training. You're that sensitive to my emotions and moods.
I just listened to you since Army Street.
Well, no, I'm glad you're a loyal listener, so you do know what I feel. So I should snap out of what exactly?
Just seems your train is running a lot slower than usual.
All right, then why don't you get off the train? Why don't you get off the train and join the
train
and join the migrant caravan of Rush Limbaugh listeners?
I can't. I got through that. It's like you say, not as entertaining, stimulating.
So okay, so you still find me entertaining and stimulating, but you don't like me anymore because I'm not bootlicking enough, carrying enough water. Is that it?
I think that because the president's not calling, every time you have a...
that's a very good question. Why is the president calling every show in America except this one? That's actually a mark of honor. It shows you that I'm totally independent. I thought about it last night. I said, realize he's called everybody in the media. He's been on everyone's show, even local shows, but he won't come on the show that made him president. And I said, why is that? That's actually a badge of honor.
Well, that's why when you asked me who to blame, I said for the president.
Well, I didn't say it would be the president, but I would say that who's ever advising him is committing a disastrous error because it's this audience that put Donald Trump over the finish line. Now, if that pockmarked jerk who he hired to be his communications director from Fox News, that failure, that flop, that bum, that mook, if that guy is so tied to Sean Hannity that he's telling the president, oh, don't go on the Michael Savage show, and there's a bloodbath, and they lose seats, I would blame the pockmarked mook.
A mutt.
That's right.
Blame them both.
I mean, if this guy is such a moron, who's running his communications, that he had put his vendettas and that of Sean Hannity, the most jealous man in the history of the media. Everyone knows about Sean Hannity. They know he's uneducated, and he's terrified people will find out that he's just like a puppet. He was once good-looking. He's lost his looks. He looks like Lou Costello. You know, hey, Abbott! He's looked like the little guy in the Abbott and Costello show. Hey, Abbott would mean Lou Costello with the part down the middle. There's nothing worse than an aging pretty boy who keeps looking at himself in the mirror saying, I still have it. But everyone's told me from the beginning he's terrified of you, Savage, because he knows he can't hold a candle to you, and he's afraid people will find out. He also knows I beat him on radio in New York for 3 years straight. So as a result of that, his best friend becomes communications director for the president, and so the president doesn't even know he's not calling the show. I'd be willing to help him if he wants to call a show, but he doesn't. So now I wear it as a badge of honor. What else should I do? I'm glad you're such a loyal listener, that you know my moods and emotions better than my shrink does, because I don't have a shrink. That's why my shrink doesn't know my moods and emotions, because I don't have one. I would lie to you if I said I didn't go to a therapist once in a while. I do. I haven't in months, because I realize at a certain point, what are you going to get out of it? What do they know about you that you don't know about you? What are they going to tell you? Whatever you do is okay? Basically, they take the role of the confessional. A shrink takes the role of a priest in a confession booth, only it costs a lot more money. You have to make the donation. It comes right out of your billing. So whatever you do, they say, don't worry, it's okay. You have to accept yourself. What kind of advice is that? No matter what you do, it's okay? No, certain things are not okay. They're horrible. Certain things you do are terrible. No, it's not okay. And you know what's right and wrong. We need a guy to tell you you're right or wrong, right? Is there any value to psychotherapy these days? I don't even know. I'm not knocking it. I mean, hey, God bless you if it helps you. I know a guy, I can't mention who because he'll sue me. I knew his father very well. His father was an extremely successful man and made all his money on his own. Made a fortune. I can't even say the business because that's too close. That's a lawsuit. The father made a fortune. The son inherited money, never worked a day in his life, never did anything with himself. The last I checked, he must be in his 60s, 70s. He has been in psychotherapy for 45 years, 5 days a week. Never worked a day in his life. 45 years of psychotherapy, and he's done nothing with his life. So it's an indulgence, you know. I don't know, maybe it has a role for some people. Maybe they could be helpful in some ways. I don't know how. I'm not trying to knock a whole field, but, you know, what does it really do for people? But getting back to politics, it's all you want to talk about. And I don't. I actually don't. I can't wait till this election is over. God, I can't wait till next Wednesday. That's like Liberation Day for me. I talk about anything. Like I went on Instagram this morning, something new for me, and I put a picture up of my my Dodge Hellcat engine, the Hemi engine. I thought someone would like it. You know, not a lot of people understand the beauty of engines. I'm one of those people who like engines. I like the cars. I like cars. I like the sound of engines. I can't stand electric cars. They're sneaky. They're very, very stealthy. They're like, electric cars are like liberals. They sneak up on you. And I think they're kind of dangerous because in an electric car, you could back up in the driveway and run your husband over, and he wouldn't even know you're coming because he can't hear you. There's like a sneakiness about an electric car. I like an overt car that makes sounds. You know what I'm saying? All right, that's neither here nor there. I know you just want to hear the basics. Republicans good, Democrats bad. And you're not going to get that, so goodbye.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now.
If you have regular home security companies, you know it's like a bad cable company, right? Hours waiting for the technicians, then hours on the phone. And then when you can't take them anymore, you want out, they say, nope, sorry, you're stuck in a 3-year contract. And I told you don't need to get stuck anymore. If you're looking to protect your home, go with Simply Safe Home Security. They're real, and they're comprehensive in their protection of every window, door, and room in your home. It's beautifully designed. It looks good in your house. You'll actually want to use it. You can put it in yourself with a couple of simple tools. And using Simply Safe makes your home safer. It's that simple. There are backups in place to keep you safe, protecting your home even if you lose power, you lose your internet, or someone attacks the system. Best of all, you're going to get 24/7 monitoring with police and fire dispatch for just $15 a month. And unlike other home security companies, no long-term contracts with SimpliSafe. It's the best around-the-clock protection you can find for the best price. So protect your home today. Get free shipping and free returns at simplysafesavage.com. That's simplysafesavage.com. Once again, simplysafesavage.com. Bones, Billy Bones. My favorite song when I get into a mood of this kind. It's a terrible version, like a broken record. Great version by Skip Henderson. But stop it because it's broken. What you're playing is broken. Stop it. Doesn't anyone listen to what they're playing? What a bad MP3 that is. It's broken. Oh, so going back to my opening show before we get to the next thing, we looked into the lawyers behind the migrant invasion, and they're called Nexus Derechos Humanos. And their motto is one race, one community. And it resonated with me in a way because I remember Hitler's statement was Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. Thanks, Larry. Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. So they're saying one race, one community. It is such... Do you understand what racism this is behind this migrant invasion? Look, I have studied this for 25 years, and I'm not going to get agitated again. It is racist to the core. There were groups like La Raza, which means the race. With all due respects to the Hispanic people, if a white man put out an organization called The Race, what would happen? You'd call them Nazi, fascist, nationalist. Well, now you got Hispanics saying one race. It's about their race. And then you had La Raza, the race. Not all races, not civil rights, one race. It was about racial supremacy of the Hispanic people. And when Obama was president, he had the head of La Raza, Cecilia Munoz. I'll never forget her name. She started out as a street radical running these L.A. groups. She wound up inside the White House of Obama. You never heard one peep out of the racists on CNN. Not one peep when they had the head of a racist organization called La Raza in the White House under Obama running policy. You didn't hear about that, did you? Because the media has been lying to you from the get-go. Do you understand this is real?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now.
I actually remember how this began. You're not going to believe this. Now, some of you will remember this. Before I was a famous talk show host, you'll never believe this. I worked for a vitamin company, and they bought time on a New York City station at night on Saturday nights. And I got up and talked about nutrition. I mean, I have a degree in the field, or a real degree, PhD, a very good one. And I talked about nutrition in general, and they sold their products. That's the way things work. And I took calls. I'll never forget the number of calls I got on two items only, hair loss and impotence. Nothing's changed. It's all anyone cares about is hair and the other stuff south of the border. No matter what I talked about, no matter where I went in my discussions of health, all the guys would call about, Mike, I'm a truck driver in Oklahoma. I stopped my big rig. What can you do to help me with my stuff down south of the border? It ain't working anymore. That kind of stuff. Well, then I got into talk radio, and I mean, it's a little different. What are we selling now? I don't mean our commercial products. God bless them. Well, if we have a message, we're selling it. My message is borders, language, and culture. And I want to talk about that for a minute with regard to the election. The reason the Democrats are in trouble is because they have no message other than hate. I've thought about this. All these jerks, actors, famous businessmen, they're all saying they're going to run for the presidency because they falsely conclude that if Donald Trump can win, they could win. They say, what has he got that I don't have? I'm smarter than him. I'm better looking than him. I got more money. Stuff like that. So they think they're going to run and win. What they don't understand is that Donald Trump won because he had a message that resonated with you, the listeners. Borders, language, and culture. He didn't put it in those terms. But that's basically the core of his message, which was a moderate nationalism. And the average person related to that because we had an anti-nationalist running the country for so many years. Obama was a globalist, an internationalist who hated this country from the get-go. Before him, who did we have? Bush, a globalist. So the people were clamoring for someone who would identify with the nation that they still love. And so, as I understand it, there was a fellow who worked for the president, who I can't mention his name, He was very prominent until he got thrown out. He lasted about 6 to 9 months, then he was thrown in the gutter, kicked to the curb after he was used. He was thrown out, but he articulated the message. He told me point blank that it was all based upon my books. He said, Dr. Savage, I and others all used your teachings from all those years, and we know it. Everyone knows that. Okay. So in other words, the message and the battle cry was very clear. Borders, language, and culture, which is right where we're at today, which is the immigration issue all over again. But what do the Democrats have for a message? They hate white people. They hate America. They hate people who make a good living. Let's see, who else do they hate? Have you heard any of their messaging that's been positive? Nothing, not one word from any of the leading Democrats is about anything other than hatred. It's to take from those who have and give it to those who do not. Or to hate Donald Trump. That's their only message. Negative, negative, negative. Now, if America is going to respond to this kind of hatred, I can't help America anymore. You know what I'm saying? But on the other hand, this message of borders, language, and culture is probably more important today than ever, even to reasonable liberals who don't want their country to disappear or to be swallowed up or absorbed by the third world, in plain English. In other words, they want a nation that children can live in. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's just a general statement, a general opening. Here are some topics that we culled for you today. The caravan, you want to call it that. I don't know, you interested in any of this stuff? This one? The Rexos Humanos, Ein Volk. James Clapper says that Trump seemingly condones radical anti-Semitism. I think Clapper has a serious case of the you-know-what that has affected his brain. I think Clapper has an illness that begins with the first part of his last name, and I think it migrated to his brain. I don't understand where he's coming up with this. How can a schmuck like James Clapper claim that Trump condones anti-Semitism when his own son-in-law is an Orthodox Jewish man, his daughter converted to Judaism, his grandchildren are Jewish? Where do they come up with this goddamn blood libel? This constant blood libel against Trump on the anti-Semitism is the one that gets me the most crazy. It's the most untrue of all of them. And yet these jerks keep repeating it. Caravan migrants from 20 nations, including 270 convicted criminals. Organizer of the caravan complains that the demand for buses from Mexico be provided to them has failed. The troops are arriving at the border and starting to put up tents at Tent City. When adolescents give up pot, their cognition quickly improves. No kidding. What do you think they call it dope for, you moron? When adolescents give up marijuana, their cognition quickly improves. Moron. Now you know why they're doping you? To keep you more stupid than you inherently are. Death row inmate in Tennessee chooses electric chair over lethal injection. Now, that's so stupid. Why would you choose the electric chair over lethal injection? I know that's a Hobson's choice. If you were given the choice, don't call me. I'm reading the headlines that we put together. Electric chair over lethal injection. What would be faster and less painful, I wonder? Who knows? I can't think of that. You see the guy the other day, what he chose for his last meal? Pig knuckles? That's his last meal, pig knuckles, a guy in, Tennessee. That's, in their mind, in the mind of the New York liberal, all people who vote for Trump would choose pig knuckles for their last meal. They would choose some souffle of some kind from a local French restaurant. They would never choose pig knuckles. Only those who vote for Trump would choose pig knuckles in their mind. How they think. You don't know them. Inside the mind of a liberal, that's a fascinating place to go. If you really want to go to a place you can't ever come back from in one piece. Where are we now? We are on the Savage Nation. So the main question of the day is there a question of the day? I'd rather do an open mic to Mike, 855-472-82. You know, I got to tell you, it's already 13 after the hour. I'm in the radio studio, and I started to cook a lunch during the break, and I think it's burning in the radio kitchen. And I really should give you the recipe. It's not that complicated, but it will burn if I don't get over to it in a minute. So I'm going to take a quick break and come back to save my lunch, and I'll be back on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swift. Remember I wrote that story, Love by the Sewer Plant? First love, first wine, first sunset. You never forget those things. I know what you want me to talk about. It's the most important election in the history of the world. Unless you go out and vote for a Republican. In a way, it's true, but you know it already. What do you want from me? You get this, your brain, 9, 12 hours a day. You already voted, half of you. You're going to vote, or you didn't vote. I'm not going to talk about that, if you don't mind. I would rather, frankly, if you wouldn't mind, I'd rather tell you what I just heated up for lunch, because I got a whole thing on, I'm really an expert on reheating food. I don't know how I developed this habit, but it's a technique. But reheated food actually tastes better for some reason, if you know what you're doing. I don't mean put it in the microwave. No. I'm going to give you an example, just a quick one. I told you I had to take an early break because the reheat was going to burn on the stove, right? I know you're curious. Many of you want to know, what did I just reheat? I didn't want one more day of Chinese or Japanese, not one more day of a salt bath where my fingers look like I injected Viagra into them. And enough already of the sodium and the poisons that they put in the food. God knows what else I'm eating when I get that food, especially takeout. Are you joking? It's like catgut special over fried rice. So all I did was I had a supermarket chicken brought in last night. Cook, the cook jobs for $9.95. Teddy and I went for a long walk, like an hour and a half. Came back. I ate the chicken with him. God knows what else. It's not that important, but I ate the chicken. He got some chicken without the skin, and I ate it with scallions. I ate a lot of scallions every day. But from 2 days ago, I had some spaghetti left over, which I never throw away. I always use it again. I could eat spaghetti 3 times a day. Anyway, I had a whole pack of angel hair that was cooked. Would you believe what I just made for lunch? It's so good. I don't even want to talk right now. If I were a normal person, I would just eat. You see what I did is I turned the frying pan on, put some oil in it. I threw in a quarter of the chicken, turned it a few times. I put the pasta on top of it. I put fresh garlic on it, meaning cloves of garlic. I broke a head open. I put some scallions on it. I covered it on low heat. Then I put some red pepper flakes on it. I never ate food like this. I could go to any restaurant in the world tonight, and it won't be as good as this. Why? Don't call why. Why? Because it's in my own house. I don't have to ask anyone for it, number one. And number two, I know what's in the plate. That's all. Now let's get back to the boring stuff. God, I can't wait till Wednesday when this is over with already. All right, let's take some calls. Steele on KSFO. Line 5, what's on your mind, Mr. Steele?
I just wanted to congratulate you on your ability to get to the level of success discussing intellectual and deep conversation. A lot of other people try to achieve the same thing using very mundane, rudimentary trains of thought. And so I want to congratulate you on that.
Well, I just talked about reheating spaghetti and chicken. That's not intellectual.
Well, when you do that and then you talk about your intellectual superior stuff, then people can relate to you a little bit.
I tried. It didn't go anywhere. I tried my best. I went from the high, now I'm down to the low. I opened the show talking about, what did I open the show talking about? Does anyone listening to the show remember? Not one of you remember what I tried at the beginning of the show. What did I say? Life imitates art, right? And what was I referring to? Were you listening to the opening? I'll bet you didn't catch it.
I'm not 100% sure, sir.
Well, I was talking about Orwell's 2 Minutes of Hate. And I was saying we're living through the 2 minutes of hatred right now. And I gave an example of CNN or MSNBC giving those people who listen to them 2 minutes of absolute hatred against Trump and American values. No one heard me, though, Steele.
Yeah, and I think the problem is with CNN, they try to use fear and everything, and I see that you use logic and reasoning and everything, and you come to the conclusions that you do and try to string people along to those same ideologies. But you are thinking of substance. They are thinking of nothing. And so...
How old are you? You're a very smart guy because you like me. How old are you?
31. So I'm almost a millennial. Not exactly sure, but maybe if I am and I still be a conservative, then I'm a successful millennial. So
you know, the word conservative bothers me. I don't even like the word. What does the word conservative mean to you? What does it actually mean?
I understand that, and I think that's where a lot of people have a problem with you. They identify with that so much, but they also agree with you so much that they don't understand
Right.
where you're coming from.
All right, so tell me, I was going to do this today. You brought up, what does the word conservative mean to you? Tell me what they stand for.
Honestly, I don't know.
They don't know at all. If you ask them, even the biggest mouths in the business, you know what they say? Smaller government.
Yeah.
Smaller government. Well, the government's bigger than it was under Obama. What do you mean smaller government?
Well, I think their strategy is to dumb down the ideology so the more people get along with their frame of mind, so they don't have to explain it. But
I love the geniuses who claim to be the Jesus Christ of the conservative movement, and they only speak for the conservative movement. No one else knows what they're talking about but them. Okay? Ask them what a conservative means, and they'll tell you smaller government, lower taxes. What else does it mean?
honestly, I really don't know.
That's why I don't like the word. I think the word itself is quite limiting.
Yeah.
Right? It's too limiting for me. It's like saying, what is a liberal? What does a liberal stand for? I mean, if there were a progressive liberal listening to this show, tell me what they stand for. Fairness to all? What does that mean? Taking something away from those who earned it? These overly simple, labels, what do they really mean? Steele, I'm sending you a thoughtful book, Stop Mass Hysteria, because I can tell that you really do read and you love ideas, right? Stop Mass Hysteria. KSFO. No, that's not a good call. John on WABC in New York. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Hello, Dr. Savage. I am a Baptist pastor who has been turned into an educator. Now I can do the pastoring for free. I grew up in New Jersey, moved to Indiana for 8 years. I was under Governor Pence. He was an excellent governor, and I voted for him and for...
Okay, but please ask me the question or make the comment.
Yes, absolutely. My thought to you, sir, is that I foresee the eventuality and reality of overturning homosexual marriage and also Roe versus Wade. And I was wondering what you would see as the political fallout of that. Would there be another revolution, i.e. civil war, and the actual real possibility of that big?
All right, let me digest my garlic on that one. Well, first of all, how do you envision gay marriage being overturned?
I believe it being sent down to the states, and then the states would decide, and the South and the Midwest would say no. The Northeast would say yes. Obviously, California, Washington, Oregon would probably say yes. And then there might be more Antifa riots and stuff like that. And
in your mind, why does gay marriage matter?
I'm sorry, sir?
In your mind, why does gay marriage matter?
Because as a conservative who believes in the foundation of the family and also the foundation of marriage, our country is going to go down the tubes, just like George Washington said. You need a moral and virtuous people for this republic to work. Otherwise, it's going to fall apart like Rome did, sir.
I don't think you're alone in your thinking, incidentally. That's why I took your call. No one even talks about it anymore. It's a fait accompli, isn't it?
Republican
Do you suspect that Mr. Pence, if he got power, would try to overturn gay marriage? Is that what you were implying? I'll be right back. Let's not talk about this, so let's talk about it, whatever you want.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282.
Now, I found out years ago that depressive people should not listen to piano concertos. Maybe you think that's too simplistic. A psychiatrist wrote that. If you tend toward depression, piano concertos can throw you over the edge. So that's why old rock and roll is very uplifting. When you're in the mood for it, when you're not, it's garbage. It's simplistic, silly. You've heard it before. But that song, I don't know. I hear that song, Come Go With Me. Who knows when our Peg Pants, Saddle Stitched, Crew Cut, Schoolyard Bully, Record Business, before the film Deuce. He was a kid, 13 years old. I've told the story once. I'm going to tell it again. I hope he doesn't listen because I'd be in real trouble. But I remember in the 7th grade, I distinctly remember. Remember I told you before, like there were kids like when you were in the 7th grade, you were still a boy. They were like kids with a mustache in the 7th grade. They were your age, but they matured fast. And they were like bigger, and they were tougher, meaner, stronger. Well, this kid was like that. Swarthy Mediterranean type. And we got into a scuffle. I ripped my pants and this and that because we came to school the same day with the same pants. They were really like Elvis pants, and they cost a fortune. So I don't want to tell what happened, but he went on into the record business. His uncle was in the business. He skipped college. He went right into the record business, made a fortune. Michael, were bigger than U.S. Steel. No, he went right into the record business out of high school. There was another kid in high school. His father was like a movie mogul. I don't know how that happened. Queens, New York. Some kid's father owned like a major movie studio. I never understood how that worked, even in those days. His father was like, I can't even name the company to this day. And then there was another one. His father owned like a corrugated carton factory. They were like the rich kids. I was, from a different class. And right across Union Turnpike, there was Donald Trump, and I didn't know him at that time. He went to the New York Military Academy. Tall, good-looking, American-looking kid. Blonde, blue-eyed, tall. They went to New York Military Academy. All those kids went to the private schools. I went to Jamaica High School by bus in the slush. And that's the way it is. We breathe the same air of Cunningham Park, right across the street from him. That's neither here nor there. It's just Friday. It's Rock and Roll Friday. And if you think I'm going to sit here for 3 hours, no, they're not attacking me. If you think I'm going to sit here for 3 hours and just talk about it's the most important election, go out and vote, nah, forget about it. I'm not going to do it. In a way, it's your show. And so you want to call on any other topic as long as it makes sense, 855. Oh, here's a great call. Or, I don't believe this one. No. Is this a real call? Dave on WBOB in Jacksonville, line 2. Dave, what is the story about what?
Yeah, listen, Doc, I've been listening to you for a long time, since the mid-'90s. I got a job in New York. I worked at the old Top of the Sixes. My boss is...
Wait, you worked where?
The Top of the Sixes in Manhattan. I'm originally from up north. Been listening to you forever. So.
Well, what is the Top of the Sixes? Like a restaurant on the top of a building?
Yeah, it's where Fifth Avenue, 53rd. In fact, Jared Kushner owns that building now.
All right, so you got a job there, and what happened?
Well, nothing. I was. That place is a exclusive club for celebrities and high-end people. I mean, everybody. And the boss that hired me, him and his wife, very, very close, Robert De Niro, for a long time. Big time, long time. Anyway, he happened to be a big fan of you, Michael Savage, right? Me too, we're talking. And he says, listen, by the way, I happen to know you listen to him. Do me a favor. When you meet Bob, do not mention that at all. He doesn't know. He would disown us, and it'd be bad for you. Do not ever... Oh,
you gave a lot away just now. You're ready to... You gave away your boss's politics right here on the air.
Well, he's not anymore. A long time. We're good. They were good people to me. They are good people. I don't want to give any more.
So what? De Niro didn't want my name mentioned at all?
Well, it was that this guy knowing that I liked you and he liked you, and he just said, look, do us a favor. Do not mention around Bob Michael Savage at all. Period.
Well, why would you have meant? Oh, I see. In other words, he knew that you're like a working class guy, and if you went over and served him or whatever, are you a waiter?
Which I did. No, I was a manager there. I was in the cigar business, and I was there briefly. I got to know...
Yeah, but in other words, if you went over to him and you thought he was like you and you mentioned my name, there could have been hell to pay.
Of course, and he was a raging wacko then, and he was a raging whack job.
Why is De Niro, who portrays tough guys, or did before he became a comedy actor, why is he such a liberal? What is it about his background that turned him so wacko left?
All of these people, it's all guilt, Doc. Come on. They don't want to think for themselves.
Yeah, but this is a guy who makes fortune after fortune, very talented man. He invests his money in real estate, restaurants. He took over an island in the Caribbean we read about a year or so ago, and the indigenous people didn't want him to take away the land and ruin it and turn it into a hotel. He did it anyway. He fought them and won. Why are they such hypocrites?
I think it's the guilt. I don't know, Doc. I mean, he's choosing the same dirt that I'm from and you're from. You know what I mean?
I'll explain it once again how this works. The billionaires who are liberals do it for one reason and one reason only. It's to keep the mobs off their doorstep.
Right.
In other words, if a guy's making a fortune, however he's making it, does he really want the left-wing lunatics outside his window at 2 a.m. with flashlights chanting? No, so he deflects it upon Donald Trump. He deflects it upon evil Republicans. And it's like he gets away with what he wants to do. No one even looks at what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? But this is the same for all of them, especially the liberals in New York. They make believe that they're one thing, but they're not that at all. They're into whatever they're into, which is making money.
I also think, personally, I think you cause more danger to them than anything because your common sense breaks through both sides. And us up north, we tell it like it is. It's why Trump's where he's at. I've been a supporter of him since.
I think so. That's absolutely true. He cuts through the fog the way I do.
So did you, Doc, and so did you, and you've always been. That's why.
That's nice of you. So you're living down in Jacksonville now, what, in witness protection or what?
No. I'm in the car business now. Long time ago, it was 20 years ago. I was in the cigar business, and I had a job there.
Is it true? Is this now? I don't mean to be cast any aspersions on a particular ethnicity, but it has been my observation for years, and it used to be more so than today. Isn't it true that Middle Eastern car salesmen wear a certain cologne that you can't get off your hand?
My first boss was Iranian, so.
Why is it that men from the Middle East think they stink? They put on a lotion. If they touch the door of your car, I don't care what you use, you can't get it off the fake leather, whatever they touch. Or your own hand. You got to cut your hand off to get rid of that smell. I've tried lathers and soaps. I've tried baby oil when I come back. I can't get it off my hand. I don't know what they're putting on there from those countries.
Doc, you always reminded me of my Jewish godfather. I'm Italian from Jersey. You always reminded me of my Jewish godfather.
As long as I remind you of somebody friendly, I'm a happy man, but I'm sending you a gift. You really want to read a political book, Stop Mass Hysteria, or would you like something else?
You know what? It's the newest book. I've never had a book sent to me, so sure. Absolutely.
You're getting Stop Mass Hysteria. Maybe we can still change one mind before the election. You never know. Yes, indeedy. You'll see the insanity we're living through right now has a few cousins in the past. But, it goes back a little bit to what I was talking about earlier on the show, which is the 2 minutes of hate. And I got to refer again to George Orwell, because, as I was saying, what we're watching now, what we're witnessing right now, is the equivalent of 2 minutes of hate. You turn on CNN. What do they do all day long? Not so much Fox. I mean, be really clear. Fox does not sell hatred. They sell a point of view that makes the liberals say it's hatred, but it really isn't hatred. Well, the left, though, sells hatred, pure and simple. So, I'm going to do it again. 2 minutes of hate. Here it comes up. I'm bringing it up again. 2 minutes of hate. And there it is. The 2 minutes of hate from George Orwell's novel 1984 is a daily period in which party members of the Society of Oceania must watch a film depicting the party's enemies and express their hatred for them for exactly 2 minutes. If that's not Jeff Zucker's modus operandi on CNN, I'd like to know what is. In other words, he puts out hatred, and he makes the listeners of CNN hate Trump, hate conservatives, for 2 straight minutes in every segment. That's his formula. He's copying the 2 minutes of hate formula of George Orwell. And then he uses people with very low IQs who don't even know what they're doing. Oddly enough, Goldstein was the head of the opposition party, which I find very odd. The 2 minutes of hatred. How did George Orwell pick the head of the opposition party who they were going to hate? How did they pick a guy named Goldstein? Why was it a Jewish person? That's an interesting thing. 1984, daily period in which party members of the Society of Oceania must watch a film depicting the party's enemies, notably Emmanuel Goldstein and his followers, and express their hatred for them for exactly 2 minutes. Wow. So if you read one paragraph from that book, it comes up. Actually, Orwell himself said the following. The writer said, the horrible thing about the 2 minutes hate was not that one was obliged to act a part, but that it was impossible to avoid joining in. Within 30 seconds, any pretense was always unnecessary. A hideous ecstasy of fear and vindictiveness, a desire to kill, to torture, to smash faces in with a sledgehammer, seemed to flow through the whole group of people like an electric current, turning one even against one's will into a grimacing, screaming lunatic. And yet the rage that one felt was an abstract, undirected emotion which could be switched from one object to another like the flame of a blow lamp. Are you telling me that when I said to you today in my inimitable way I find literature like this, that we're not seeing exactly the 2 minutes of hate that George Orwell wrote about in 1984? Are you telling me that when you see the faces of the pink-hatted women or of the Antifa haters or of the Occupy haters, or of any of the other left-wing groups funded by George Soros, who you're not allowed to mention anymore, George Soros and the others who fund these groups, you're telling me that that's not an exact description of what they are doing to them? And that's why people are getting hurt, frankly, on both sides of the aisle. If you want to be clear about it, you can look at it the other way as well. And, of course, they'll only say Trump is antagonizing the right wing to hurt people, which is a total lie. It's 1,000% wrong. 855-407. I got nice calls now. I got thoughtful callers now. And we're also talking about Dia de los Muertos, which is, I think, today's holiday, the Day of the Dead. I was never into laying down in a graveyard, frankly. I don't even walk in a graveyard if I can avoid it. How could you take food and children to a graveyard and, picnic over a grave? I don't understand. It's a cultural thing. Where's the pleasure in that? You take a little kid to a graveyard with a skull, and you, put things on a tombstone. Look, different strokes for different folks. I'll be back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call